Get your dirty little hands off my counter before I call the cops on you right now. The night manager barked across the lobby, his voice cutting through the quiet like a slap. And in that single moment, the room froze because everyone heard him reduce a paying guest to nothing more than trash. And that is where this story begins. Before we go deeper into it, where are you watching from tonight? Comment below, hit like, and subscribe so these voices are never silenced. Now let's return to the moment that would change everything. Alicia Johnson stood at the counter of the Liberty Grand Hotel in Midtown Manhattan. She looked like any woman finishing a long day of work. White blouse, faded jeans, sneakers worn at the edges, on her shoulder, a simple leather messenger bag. Nothing about her gave away her true identity. Not the look in her eyes, not the calm way she carried herself, and certainly not the outfit she wore. To the staff who were watching, she looked like a woman out of place. To them, she looked like someone who didn't belong in a lobby filled with marble floors and chandeliers that cost more than most families' homes. But what no one in that room realized was that Alicia was the majority owner of the Liberty Grand chain. A self-made woman who had risen from nothing in Detroit to control 72% of a billion-dollar hotel empire. The insult that greeted her was not the first time she had been underestimated, but tonight it cut sharper than usual. Alicia had just stepped in from the November night with only 30 minutes before her midnight video call with Matsuda Electronics in Tokyo. The contract was worth $350 million. It would secure the future of her company, expand its reach, and give her employees opportunities they had only dreamed of. She had no time for theatrics, no patience for disrespect. And yet theatrics and disrespect are exactly what she walked into. Derek Harlan, the night manager, was a man who loved control. He had been with the Midtown property for years, and in his mind, the lobby was his kingdom. He thrived on intimidation, on letting guests know who was in charge. When Alicia placed her American Express Centurion card on the marble counter, he snatched it before she could say another word. Without even looking at the name, without even running it through the system, he tossed it to the floor as if it were a dirty napkin. His black polished shoe came down hard, grinding the card against the stone. "Fake plastic. Dirty money. Doesn't work here," he sneered, his voice loud enough for everyone in the lobby to hear. Beside him, Patricia Lewis, the assistant manager, crossed her arms and added with a smirk, "This is Liberty Grand, not a bus stop. People like you don't belong in our penthouse suites." Her words dripped with disdain, meant not only to humiliate but to perform, to make sure every guest within earshot knew that Alicia was being labeled a fraud. Sarah, a young front desk clerk barely out of college, giggled nervously. She wanted to keep her job, and she thought laughing at the manager's cruelty would make her safe. Kelly Adams, the other clerk on duty, tapped away at her keyboard with shaking fingers. She didn't laugh, but she didn't intervene either. Silence, in that moment, was complicity. Alicia bent down slowly, picked up her card, and held it in her palm. The cool metal was warm from the pressure of his shoe. She slipped it into her bag without comment. She opened her phone, pulled up her email, and set it gently on the counter. "Penthouse suite confirmed," she said, her voice steady, almost too calm. The confirmation screen glowed bright. Liberty Grand Hotel. Reservation under the name Alicia Johnson. Derek glanced at it for a second, then waved it off. "Anyone can Photoshop an email. Sweetheart, you think I don't know scams when I see them?" Patricia leaned over the phone, shaking her head as if she were an expert in truth. "Not possible. The real Alicia Johnson would be different. Not someone in sneakers. Not someone carrying a bag that looks like it came from a thrift store." Alicia checked the time. 11:32. 28 minutes until the call. She did not raise her voice. She did not beg. She simply repeated, "I have a reservation." Please check the system. But Sarah, still trying to impress, typed quickly, then looked up. I found a Johnson in the system, but it must be a mistake. A woman like her? No way. The words slipped out before she realized the cruelty in them, and once they were out, they hung heavy in the lobby air. Guests began to notice. An older couple dressed for the opera turned their heads, whispering behind jeweled hands. A man in a $1,000 suit stopped mid-conversation on his phone, eyes fixed on the scene. In the corner, Jennifer Kim, a food blogger from Los Angeles with a growing TikTok following, reached quietly for her phone. She knew injustice when she saw it. She whispered into the mic, "Y'all, I'm in New York right now, and what I'm witnessing in this 5-star hotel is insane. Watch this." Her live stream counter started at 62 viewers, then ticked to 100, then 200. Meanwhile, Derek leaned over the counter until his face was just inches from Alicia. His breath carried the bitter smell of stale coffee. "This is not some shelter where you can demand things," he said. "This is my property to protect, and I will not let you scam your way into a penthouse that costs $2,800 a night." His voice carried across the marble, sharp and proud. Patricia nodded in agreement, turning to Sarah. "Cancel the reservation. Open it for someone who belongs here." Sarah's hands hesitated over the keyboard. Kelly whispered, "Maybe we should double-check." Patricia cut her off cold. "No need. Look at her. She doesn't belong." The digital clock on the wall blinked 11:35, 25 minutes until Tokyo. Alicia's phone buzzed with a text from her assistant. "Matsuda on standby. Are you ready?" She looked at Derek, at Patricia, at Sarah, then back at her phone. She knew the choice she faced: either allow the insult to continue, lose her composure, and jeopardize the deal of her career, or remain steady, gather the evidence playing out in real time, and let the truth reveal itself. She chose the latter. Jennifer's live stream had climbed to over 600 viewers. Comments flooded in. "Is this real? In New York? In 2024? They better not touch her. Someone call the news." Derek, unaware of how quickly his downfall was spreading, puffed his chest out like a conqueror. He motioned toward the security desk. "Marcus, get over here. We've got ourselves a fraud." Marcus Reed, the head of security, approached with slow, measured steps, a former Coast Guard officer. He had seen more chaos than most men twice his age. He looked Alicia in the eye, then at the managers, then at the phone still glowing with her reservation. Something about her calm unsettled him. Alicia looked back, reading his name tag clearly. "Mr. Reed," she said softly, "before you do anything, check section 12.7 of your employee handbook." Marcus froze. His training told him to follow orders, but his gut told him something here was very wrong. Derek rolled his eyes and laughed. "Classic scammer tactic. Throw some legal mumbo-jumbo, confuse security, buy some time, not gonna work here." But Marcus did not move. He studied Alicia, then glanced at his phone, quietly opening the handbook app. His expression shifted as he read. He knew exactly what section 12.7 said. By 11:38, Jennifer's live stream had crossed 1,200 viewers. The tide was turning, and Derek had no idea. What began as an insult, a performance meant to humiliate one woman, was about to become a stage where the truth would be revealed for thousands to see. And Alicia Johnson, standing silent in her jeans and sneakers, was ready by the time the clock over the Liberty Grand lobby showed 11:40. The tension had thickened into something no one could ignore, and the manager's voice grew sharper as he pressed forward. "Security! Remove her now before she causes more of a scene." His words slicing through the air like knives, and though Alicia Johnson stood calm, every insult thrown her way was another weight pressing on the shoulders of a woman who had fought her whole life to be taken seriously. Yet here she was, accused of fraud in a building she literally owned, her reservation denied, her dignity trampled. But her silence was not weakness. It was strategy. Derek Harlan leaned against the counter as if he were the king of this marble palace, enjoying the laughter of Patricia Lewis, who smirked with satisfaction, while Sarah the clerk tried to hide her nervous grin, whispering to Kelly that they might be witnessing another scammer trying to sneak into the penthouse, and Kelly whispered back that it felt wrong. But her voice was too soft to matter, drowned out by Derek's booming authority. Guests whispered too, the older couple shifting uncomfortably in their chairs, the businessman with the tailored suit shaking his head but not yet speaking. And in the corner, Jennifer Kim kept streaming. Her phone angled perfectly to catch Derek's every sneer and Alicia's quiet composure. Her viewer count leaping past 2,000, comments exploding with outrage, strangers typing furiously. "She's telling the truth. I can feel it." And, "This hotel is about to get exposed." Derek, blind to the growing digital storm, continued his performance, raising his voice so everyone could hear. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this disturbance. Unfortunately, we have to deal with people who think a fake card and a forged email can get them into rooms meant for Fortune 500 executives, world leaders, and guests who actually belong here." And the lobby fell into a hush because it wasn't just an insult anymore. It was theater, a public shaming staged by the very people paid to protect dignity. Alicia glanced once more at her phone. 11:42, 18 minutes left. Her assistant's messages popping up. "Are you ready? Tokyo is waiting. Do not be late." And still she did not raise her voice. She simply breathed deeply and looked Derek in the eye. "I am a registered guest. My confirmation is in your system. Check again." But Derek waved her off with a laugh. "Do you think repeating the lie makes it true? Sweetheart, no one here believes you." And Patricia leaned closer, her voice dripping venom. "I've been in luxury hospitality for 2 decades. I can spot a fraud the moment she walks through the door. And you, honey, are nothing but a fraud in sneakers." That was when David Miller, the businessman who had been watching, finally stood, his deep voice carrying across the marble hall. "I have stayed in this property for the last 2 weeks. I pay thousands of dollars to your brand every year. And I am telling you right now, the only fraud I see here is the way you're treating this woman." And his words cracked through the arrogance like a sudden clap of thunder, making heads turn, phones lift, and even Marcus Reed pause mid-step. Derek's face tightened, the smirk slipping for the first time. "Sir, with respect, this is a private matter. You don't understand what's happening here." But David shook his head. "No, I understand perfectly. I understand that a black woman in jeans is being treated as a criminal while she presents valid proof of a reservation. I understand that your voice is louder than hers because you think she cannot fight back. But I promise you, she can." The businessman's words rippled through the room, murmurs rising, more guests pulling out their phones, Jennifer's stream jumping from 2,000 to over 5,000 viewers in minutes, the chat screaming, "Yes, stand up for her. Expose this Derek guy. We're watching history." Marcus Reed finally stepped closer, his tall frame commanding respect, his hand hovering near his radio but not yet touching it. His eyes narrowed on Derek. "What section did she mention?" he asked quietly. "The handbook, 12.7. And Derek scoffed. "Ignore it. It's a bluff." But Marcus pulled out his own phone and opened the handbook app, his lips tightening as the words appeared. "Termination for discriminatory behavior. Immediate. No severance. Personal liability." And his eyes flicked from the screen to Alicia, recognition dawning that this was no ordinary guest. Meanwhile, Patricia was already digging through the system, pretending to double-check, and her voice rang out. "There is a Johnson reservation. Yes, but it must be fake. The confirmation looks too perfect, the formatting too clean. It was designed to fool us. And she raised the phone screen as if displaying counterfeit art. Alicia did not flinch. She simply repeated, "It is real." And Patricia laughed. "Sure it is. And I'm Oprah Winfrey." The insult landed heavy, drawing gasps from some guests and smirks from others too afraid to confront authority. And all the while, the clock ticked toward 11:45. Jennifer's stream hit 7,000 viewers. The hashtag Liberty Grand Racism already beginning to trend. Corporate social listening systems pinging alerts in a quiet office miles away. Executives waking to flashing screens. But Derek still strutted like a man untouchable. "Call the police," he said. "Better safe than sorry. We can't let criminals ruin our brand." And he dialed quickly, speaking into the phone with false urgency. "Yes, officer. We have a woman here attempting fraud, forged documents, trying to steal a penthouse suite." Alicia watched him, her expression still calm, and for the first time a few in the crowd began to sense what was coming. That perhaps the quiet woman was not a fraud at all, but a storm gathering strength. David folded his arms, refusing to sit down. Marcus kept scrolling the handbook. Sarah typed nervously at her computer while Kelly whispered, "This is going too far." And Jennifer whispered to her growing audience, "This is blowing up, you guys. This hotel is about to regret every word." 11:47, 13 minutes to Tokyo. Alicia checked her watch, inhaled slowly, and whispered to herself, "I am ready. Ready not just for a call, but for a confrontation that would change everything." The insults had stacked high. The arrogance had filled the room like smoke, and still she had not raised her voice. But the time was coming when her silence would turn into revelation. And Derek and Patricia, so certain of their power, had no idea that their empire of contempt was already crumbling live before thousands of witnesses across the world. By 11:50, the lobby of the Liberty Grand Midtown no longer felt like a quiet sanctuary of wealth and marble. It had transformed into a stage where arrogance and dignity were colliding in front of a growing audience both in person and online. Because while Derek Harlan was busy puffing out his chest and Patricia Lewis was scribbling notes about supposed fraud, Jennifer Kim's live stream had climbed past 10,000 viewers, the comments scrolling so fast that even she could not keep up. People writing in all caps, demanding the hotel be exposed, demanding that the woman in sneakers be treated with respect, and Alicia Johnson, standing calm at the counter, became the focus of every eye. Derek, sensing that he was losing the room, decided to double down, his voice booming once again. "I've worked here 8 years. I know when someone is trying to cheat the system, and this woman is exactly that. A cheat, a liar, a scammer who thinks if she talks calmly enough she can trick us into giving her a room that costs more than her yearly income." Patricia clapped her hands together as if applauding him, smirking to the crowd of guests as if to say, "See, we protect the integrity of this hotel." Sarah typed furiously at her keyboard, her face pale, her nervous giggle now silent. And Kelly whispered, "It's not right. We should stop." But her words vanished into the heavy silence of the marble hall. Then Alicia spoke, not loud, not angry, simply steady. "I understand you are busy. I understand you think I am lying, but I have a confirmed penthouse reservation, and I need to be in that suite within 10 minutes for a critical call." Her words were soft, but powerful, the kind that carried weight because they were so controlled. Derek sneered and leaned closer, his breath sharp. "Busy lady, I've got time. I've got all the time in the world to explain to you what reality looks like. And reality is this: you don't belong here." That was when David Miller stepped forward again, his voice firmer than before. "You don't get to decide who belongs here. She showed you confirmation. She showed you a valid card. The only thing you're proving tonight is that this hotel has a serious problem with discrimination." His words drew murmurs of agreement, a few claps even, and Jennifer whispered into her phone, "Did you hear that? Guests are siding with her now." Derek waved his hand dismissively. Sir, I said this is a private matter. If you interfere, I will have you escorted out too. But Marcus Reed, still standing with the handbook open on his phone, raised his head and said slowly, Actually, Derek, she's right about the handbook. Section 12.7. Discriminatory behavior by staff is grounds for immediate termination. No severance, legal liability. His words struck like a hammer blow. And for the first time, Patricia's smirk faltered, her eyes darting to Derek. But Derek barked back. Don't quote policy to me, Marcus. I run this lobby, not some handbook. Yet Marcus did not move to arrest Alicia. Instead, he stood still, conflicted, because his training screamed caution and his conscience screamed justice. Meanwhile, Jennifer's viewer count surged past 15,000. The hashtag #LibertyGrandRacism trending across Twitter, retweeted by activists, journalists, even a local news anchor who typed, Heading to Liberty Grand Midtown now, reports of discrimination spreading online. Alicia checked her phone again. 11:52, 8 minutes to Tokyo. And she whispered, almost to herself, 8 minutes. That's all I need. Then she reached into her messenger bag and slid her driver's license across the counter. Her name clear under the plastic hologram. But Patricia held it up to the light like a detective, sniffing it as if she could smell forgery, and said loudly, This could be fake, too. Identity theft is a real crime. Derek nodded dramatically. Good thinking, Patricia. Maybe we should call the police right now. Get her booked before she can disappear. Sarah's hands hovered over her keyboard, and she asked in a hushed tone, Should I cancel the penthouse reservation now? Open it for someone else? And Patricia said firmly, Absolutely. No point keeping it on hold for a fraud. Alicia's phone buzzed. Another text from her assistant. Board members will be watching the Tokyo call. Don't be late. The pressure built. Every second a reminder that she had no time left. Yet she stood steady, her voice clear. I am ready. And she meant it not just for Tokyo, but for everything unfolding around her. Derek snapped his fingers toward the security desk. Marcus, do your job. Remove her. But Marcus shook his head slightly. Not until I know what's going on. And Derek's face reddened. You dare question me? I've been here 3 years without a single complaint. Sarah's voice cracked from behind the desk. That's not true. Derek, there have been complaints. 17 in the last 6 months. Most of them about you. The words hung heavy, stunning the lobby, and even Patricia looked shaken. 17, she whispered, but Derek roared. That's a lie. Those reports don't matter. Jennifer's stream count soared to 20,000, comments flying across the screen. 17 complaints. He just admitted it. This is blowing up. Alicia raised her head, her calm composure steady as glass, and for the first time the entire lobby seemed to sense the shift, the power changing hands, not through shouting or force, but through truth spoken quietly and evidence stacking higher with each minute. 11:55, 5 minutes to Tokyo, the crowd growing, the pressure mounting, Derek and Patricia clinging to authority like drowning sailors, Marcus torn between duty and justice, Sarah whispering apologies, Kelly trembling at her desk, David standing tall in defiance, Jennifer broadcasting to the world, and Alicia Johnson, silent and strong, ready for the moment when her identity would shatter every assumption made against her. By 11:57, the atmosphere inside the Liberty Grand Midtown was no longer just tense. It was electric, because the insults had stacked too high, the humiliation too public. And the clock kept reminding Alicia Johnson that only 3 minutes remained before her midnight call with Tokyo. Yet instead of retreating, she drew herself taller, her calm presence filling the lobby in a way that rattled even those who had mocked her minutes earlier. And as Derek Harlan shouted again about fraud, Jennifer Kim's live stream crossed 25,000 viewers, the comment feed flashing like fireworks, strangers typing. We see you, Alicia. Stay strong. This is going viral right now. Shut that manager down. And even a Chicago civil rights account retweeted the stream with the caption, "Another example of systemic bias in luxury spaces, unfolding live in New York." Patricia Lewis held Alicia's driver's license in her hand like it was a prop for a stage play, raising it high for the guests to see, and sneered. "Look at this. Anyone can fake an ID these days. You expect us to believe this shabby woman is booked for a penthouse that costs $2,800 a night? Please. This is insulting to every honest guest in this hotel." Sarah's voice cracked as she whispered, "But the system does show her reservation." And Patricia barked back, "Then the system is wrong. Override it. Cancel it now." Kelly gasped, "But if it's real, we'll be in trouble." And Patricia hissed, "Do it anyway. She'll be gone soon." That was the breaking point for David Miller, who stepped forward again, his face flushed with righteous anger. "If you cancel her reservation in front of all of us, after seeing the confirmation with your own eyes, I will personally call every business associate I know and tell them never to use this hotel again. And I have influence. You can believe that." And his declaration drew applause from some of the guests who had been silent until then. The businessman's credibility lending weight to Alicia's quiet dignity. Derek tried to shout over the noise, "Sit down, sir. You don't run this place. I do." But Marcus Reed finally closed his handbook app, raised his voice, and said, "Not anymore, you don't. Not when you've broken company policy 17 times. Not when every word out of your mouth tonight is being recorded. Not when corporate is already watching." Derek spun toward him, his face red. "What are you talking about? Corporate doesn't know anything." But Patricia's phone buzzed in her pocket. She read the message and her face drained of color. "Derek, they do know. Social media is trending. Corporate sent a request for a report. They're asking about a discrimination incident happening tonight at Midtown." The room erupted in gasps. Even the older couple who had been whispering in discomfort now looked horrified. And Jennifer whispered into her phone, "Oh my God! Corporate is already aware. This is going to explode." Alicia finally placed both hands on the marble counter, her voice soft but cutting. "Enough! You have 2 minutes left to stop embarrassing yourselves." And the weight of her words made even Derek stumble back a step. Patricia tried one last defense. "Ma'am, if you had just been honest about who you were, none of this would have happened." And Alicia looked her in the eye. "I was honest. I gave you my name. I gave you my card. I gave you my confirmation. You decided that wasn't enough, because you looked at me and judged, and now you will face the consequences." Derek laughed weakly. "Consequences? Please, what consequences?" But Marcus answered, holding up his phone so the handbook was visible to everyone. "Termination without severance, personal liability, and possibly criminal exposure if the guest decides to press charges. That is what Section 12.7 says. Derek, that's what you triggered tonight." Jennifer's viewer count hit 30,000. Her chat filled with comments like, "Read him the policy again." "Fire him live." "This is unbelievable." And Alicia checked her watch one more time. 11:59. 1 minute to Tokyo. Then she opened her messenger bag and pulled out a slim leather portfolio, placing it gently on the counter as if she were setting down the verdict in a trial. She flipped it open, removed a crisp printed report, and slid it across the marble toward Derek and Patricia. "Here is your department's quarterly performance review. Revenue down 28%. Guest satisfaction 2.1 stars out of 5. Turnover 75%. The lowest in our entire portfolio. And do you know who is responsible for that performance? Derek. Do you know whose name appears on every complaint? Whose behavior has been documented in 17 separate warnings? Yours." The color drained from Derek's face. Patricia's hand shook as she tried to pass the report back. "Where did you get this? This is confidential." And Alicia reached again into her portfolio, drew out a simple black business card, placed it next to the report. the name embossed in silver. Alicia Johnson, Chief Executive Officer, Liberty Grand Hotels. And the silence that followed was absolute. The only sound, the faint hum of the lobby chandelier lights and the steady ping of notifications from Jennifer's phone. Guests gasped. Some clapped hands to their mouths. Sarah whispered, "Oh my God, she's the CEO!" Kelly's eyes filled with tears. Marcus dropped his gaze in shame for nearly following orders, and Derek stumbled backward, whispering, "No, that's impossible. You can't be." But Alicia turned her phone so the corporate website leadership page faced the crowd, her headshot shining back at them. "It is not only possible, it is reality. I bought this hotel group 6 months ago for $612 million. I own 72%. I am your boss's boss's boss. And tonight you revealed exactly why I came here unannounced, to see with my own eyes how my staff treats people they assume don't belong. Thank you, Derek and Patricia, for confirming every complaint I have read." At that, Jennifer's live stream exploded past 40,000 viewers, the chat screaming with joy, shock, and fury, some typing. "Plot twist of the century," others writing, "This is bigger than any drama show." And David Miller laughed with relief, clapping loudly. "I knew it. I knew she was no fraud. She owns you all, and you've just ended your own careers." Derek clung to the counter, sweating, mumbling excuses. Patricia stammered apologies. Sarah burst into tears, and Marcus straightened his back, saluting Alicia with quiet respect. And as the clock struck midnight and her phone rang with the call from Tokyo, Alicia answered calmly, her voice steady as glass. "Yes, I am ready for our meeting. I am conducting an audit in New York right now, and the findings confirm what I feared. But change begins tonight." The crowd erupted in whispers, some applauding, some recording, some simply stunned. And Derek realized too late that the empire he thought he controlled had collapsed live, under the weight of arrogance, racism, and a truth he never saw coming. The clock on the wall read 12:01, the Tokyo call still open on mute, and the lobby of the Liberty Grand Midtown had become something between a courtroom and a theater, with every guest and every phone camera locked onto Alicia Johnson, who had just revealed herself as the majority owner and chief executive of the entire Liberty Grand chain. And while Derek Harlan tried to steady himself by gripping the counter, his hands shook so badly that the veins stood out in his arms. Patricia Lewis pressed trembling fingers to her forehead. Sarah sobbed quietly into her hands, and Kelly stared down at the marble floor, her eyes red, but her voice whispering. I knew this was wrong. Yet the real shift came not from their shame, but from Alicia's poise. Because instead of shouting or gloating, she simply opened her laptop and connected it to the lobby's display screen. The Liberty Grand corporate logo glowing bright above the words, Operational Audit, Midtown Property. And as the slide appeared, Jennifer Kim's live stream counter surged past 50,000, her audience typing furiously. We are watching history. This woman is a queen. Fire them all now. Alicia raised her hand for silence, her voice measured, calm, and heavy with authority. You will each have a choice tonight, and you will have exactly 60 seconds to decide. 3 paths stand before you, and only you can choose which one you walk. Derek scoffed, though his voice cracked. You can't be serious. You can't do this in the middle of the lobby. But Alicia turned to him with eyes that froze him in place. I can, and I will. Because your behavior tonight has been broadcast to tens of thousands and flagged by corporate monitoring. You have made this public, not me, so your reckoning will also be public. She held up one finger, her tone steady. Option 1, immediate resignation. You walk out tonight. I provide a neutral reference that spares you from the full stain of this incident. You keep a shred of reputation. She raised a second finger. Option 2, termination for cause. This incident on your permanent record. No references, no severance. Possible legal action for damages. a third finger. Option 3, a full corporate investigation, 3 to 6 months of depositions. Media exposure. Your names forever tied to discrimination lawsuits. Your careers destroyed slowly and publicly. The silence that followed was unbearable. Even the guests who had been filming lowered their phones for a moment, the weight of Alicia's authority pressing on everyone like a heavy stone. Derek stammered. "There has to be a middle ground. We can work this out privately. I've been here 3 years. I've given my life to this place." But Alicia cut him off. 3 years, 17 documented complaints, 4 failed coaching sessions, 1.8 rating from your last performance review. Your life to this place has been nothing but poison to our guests and a cancer to our culture. Patricia stepped forward, tears streaking her cheeks. "Miss Johnson, I am so sorry. I thought I was supporting my supervisor. I thought I was protecting the hotel. I never meant for this to escalate." And Alicia answered firmly. "You are not a child, Patricia. You made choices. You mocked a guest. You dismissed her proof. You encouraged others to cancel her reservation. The fact that I happen to be the CEO is irrelevant. You would have treated any black woman in sneakers the same way." Jennifer whispered to her audience. "She's right. She's absolutely right. This is bigger than just tonight." And her viewer count spiked again. 60,000 and climbing. Marcus Reed finally stepped forward, clearing his throat, his security uniform still neat even as his conscience weighed heavy. "Ma'am, what about me? I was called to escort you out. I was ready to do it. I almost followed their orders." And Alicia turned to him with a rare softness in her tone. "Marcus, you questioned the policy. You checked the handbook. You paused when they demanded blind obedience. That hesitation saved you. It showed critical judgment. And tonight you will also have a choice. You can walk away, or you can help me rebuild this property into what it should be." Kelly spoke next, her voice quivering. "Ma'am, I didn't laugh, but I also didn't stop them. I knew it was wrong. I stayed silent. Does that make me guilty too?" And Alicia studied her for a long moment before answering. Silence in the face of cruelty is complicity, but silence can also become courage if you learn from it. Your future here depends on whether you are willing to face what you allowed tonight. Sarah finally lifted her tear-streaked face, whispering, "I laughed. I joined them. I was cruel. I wanted to fit in. I wanted Derek to like me. But I know I was wrong. I don't want to be that person again." And Alicia's gaze softened slightly. "Acknowledgement is the first step, Sarah. Your honesty gives you a chance, but you will be on probation, 90 days of retraining, cultural sensitivity, guest dignity practices. If you succeed, you stay. If you fail, you leave." The guests in the lobby murmured approval, David Miller nodding with satisfaction. "That's leadership," he muttered aloud. And Jennifer whispered, "She's giving them a way forward, even while destroying the ones who deserve it most." Derek could take no more. He ripped his name badge from his jacket, his hands trembling. "Fine, I resign. But this isn't fair. You blindsided me." And he slammed the badge onto the counter, the sound echoing through the marble hall like a gavel strike. Patricia removed her own badge with shaking hands. "Resignation," she choked out. "I can't fight this. I'm so sorry." And Alicia nodded once, her face unreadable. "Your apologies are noted. Your choice is made." The digital clock read 12:04. The Tokyo call still waiting on mute, her assistant messaging frantically. "They are waiting. Please join." But Alicia knew she had to finish what she started here before turning back to Tokyo, because the reform of a hotel culture mattered just as much as a multi-million-dollar contract. She lifted her chin, addressing every guest and every employee in the room. Tonight is not just about 2 managers who failed. It is about the soul of this property. It is about whether we treat every guest with dignity, Whether they wear a tailored suit or a pair of old sneakers, whether they arrive in a limousine or on a bus. From this moment forward, we will not measure guests by appearance but by humanity, and anyone unwilling to uphold that standard will not work here, not under my leadership. Applause broke out, tentative at first, then stronger, the businessman clapping, the older couple clapping, even Kelly clapping through tears. And Jennifer whispered into her phone, "Do you hear that? She just transformed this place. This is bigger than any hotel. This is a message to the world." Alicia unmuted her Tokyo call, bowed slightly to the camera, and said calmly, "Yes, I am ready now. I apologize for the delay, but I had urgent business. I was conducting a live audit of my staff, and the results will change the way our company operates." And Matsuda himself nodded from across the ocean, saying, "Then we will wait, because leaders who reform culture are the leaders we want to partner with." And the contract was safe. By 12:10, the Liberty Grand Midtown lobby had shifted from chaos to transformation, because the villains of the night were gone, their badges surrendered, their voices silenced, and what remained was the quiet authority of a woman who had just proven that leadership is not about noise, but about principle. And Alicia Johnson, standing steady in her jeans and sneakers, opened a new slide on the screen above the counter, the words, "Immediate Reform Plan," glowing in bold letters. And she spoke with the calm force of someone who had nothing left to prove. "Effective this moment, we are launching the Liberty Pledge, a commitment to dignity in every one of our properties. No guest will ever again be judged by clothing, accent, or appearance. Every complaint of discrimination will bypass local managers and go straight to corporate. Every employee will be held accountable by metrics tied directly to guest dignity." The guests in the lobby listened in stunned silence, some nodding, some recording, Jennifer Kim whispering into her phone. "This is historic. I've never seen a CEO do this live in front of strangers," and her viewer count spiked again. Now over 70,000 people watching as Alicia laid out a blueprint for cultural change. She clicked to the next slide. "Technology solutions," she said, holding up her phone. "We are rolling out a mobile platform that allows guests to scan QR codes throughout the hotel and report discrimination instantly. Those reports will go directly to my office, not to the people standing at this counter, not to supervisors who can bury them, but to me and my leadership team. Transparency will be our protection." Marcus Reed stepped closer, his deep voice steady. "That would change everything. No way for bad managers to hide misconduct." And Alicia nodded. "Exactly. Marcus. And I expect you to lead that initiative. Your new role will be Director of Guest Dignity for this property. Your job is no longer just security. It is to make sure every guest feels safe, respected, and welcome. Do you accept?" And without hesitation, he replied, "Yes, ma'am," with pride. Applause rippled through the crowd, and Jennifer whispered to her phone, "You just saw a man promoted live. This is how you build loyalty." Alicia moved on. "Staff accountability," she said firmly. "Monthly training on unconscious bias, quarterly reviews tied to satisfaction scores, and any documented act of discrimination will trigger immediate investigation by outside consultants. No more excuses. No more hiding." Sarah lifted her head, her voice shaking but earnest. "Ma'am, does that include me?" And Alicia turned toward her. "Yes, Sarah. It includes everyone, including you. You are on probation for 90 days. You will undergo retraining, and if you prove growth, you will have a career here. If not, you will leave. Do you accept those terms?" And Sarah wiped her tears and nodded hard. "I do. I will not waste this chance." Alicia's voice softened. "Then prove it." She turned next to Kelly. "And you. Your silence tonight nearly cost us. But silence can be redeemed. You too will be trained. And if you find your voice, you will stay. If not, you will go," Kelly whispered. "Yes, ma'am. I will not be silent again." The crowd nodded. Seeing a new culture being born in real time, Alicia clicked to the next slide. Community accountability, and explained. This property will partner with the New York Urban League and local civil rights leaders. We will form an external oversight board that will review complaints and policies quarterly. We will not just police ourselves. We will invite the community to hold us accountable. David Miller clapped loudly. That is leadership, he said, his voice carrying across the marble. And other guests joined him. Applause filling the lobby until it sounded like a standing ovation. Jennifer whispered into her phone. This is trending across the country. People are calling her reforms the Liberty Pledge. Hashtags are blowing up. Alicia closed her laptop, her voice warm now but still firm. Tonight you saw how quickly arrogance can fall. You also saw how accountability can rise. Derek and Patricia chose resignation. Sarah and Kelly chose growth. Marcus chose leadership. And Jennifer. She turned to the young woman still filming. I want to offer you a position as well. Head of Social Engagement for Liberty Grand. We need people who understand the power of truth online. We need people who will show the world we are serious. Jennifer's mouth fell open. Are you serious? And Alicia smiled faintly. I am always serious about talent. Email me tomorrow. Jennifer whispered into her phone. You all just heard that. She offered me a job live. I am speechless. The lobby buzzed with astonishment, the applause steady, and Alicia finally lifted her bag and said, The penthouse is ready, but more importantly, so is our future. This hotel is no longer a place of exclusion. It will be a place of dignity, and you all witnessed the turning point. She stepped toward the elevators, her calm composure intact, and the guests parted like water to let her through, some whispering thanks, some clapping again, and as the doors closed behind her, the Liberty Grand Midtown no longer felt like the same place, because in less than an hour, a woman in sneakers had dismantled arrogance, rebuilt accountability, and planted the seeds of reform that would ripple across an entire industry. 3 months later, the Liberty Grand Midtown did not resemble the place where humiliation once thrived. It had become a symbol of redemption and reform. The plaque in the lobby now read in simple letters, Every guest deserves dignity, placed exactly where Derek Harlan had once ground Alicia Johnson's Centurion card into the marble. And guests paused each day to read those words, many touching the plaque as if it were a promise carved in stone. The hotel's rating had climbed from 2.1 stars to 4.6. Revenue had grown 31%, and staff turnover had fallen to its lowest level in years. But the true change was visible in faces and voices, not just numbers. Sarah, once the nervous clerk who laughed to fit in, now stood behind the counter with a new badge that read Supervisor, greeting each guest with a warmth she had earned through humility and retraining. Her 90 days of probation had been hard, filled with long hours of workshops, role plays, and difficult conversations. But she had endured, and when Alicia returned to review her progress, she stood tall, saying, I will never again treat a guest the way I treated you. And Alicia nodded with pride. Kelly, too, had grown, her silence transformed into courage. She was now known among staff as the one who spoke up first when something felt wrong, her voice strong and steady, and Alicia told her, You found your strength. Keep using it. Marcus Reed thrived in his new role as Director of Guest Dignity, patrolling the lobby not with suspicion, but with purpose, reminding his team that every guest was to be protected not from suspicion, but from disrespect. And his monthly reports became the model used across the entire Liberty Grand chain. Jennifer Kim had left her food blog behind and now worked at corporate headquarters as head of social engagement. Her sharp understanding of social media turned into a force for transparency. She created weekly live streams where guests could share stories of kindness from Liberty properties. And within weeks, the Liberty Pledge became a trending topic not because of outrage, but because of positive examples. Something no luxury hotel brand had achieved before. The reforms Alicia announced that night spread to all 92 Liberty Grand hotels across the country. QR codes appeared in every lobby, community oversight boards were formed in every city, and the results were staggering. Discrimination complaints dropped to zero. Guest satisfaction soared, and Harvard Business School announced they would study the Liberty Pledge as a case in corporate culture change. Alicia herself returned to Midtown on a quiet afternoon, dressed once again in jeans and sneakers, carrying the same messenger bag. And when she walked into the lobby, the staff recognized her instantly, not as a stranger to be doubted, but as a leader to be respected. Guests whispered in awe, some asking for photos, others simply thanking her. And she paused at the plaque, running her fingers across the words, her voice soft but firm. "We did this. Together." She recorded a short message on her phone, looking into the camera with the same calm strength she had shown that night. Discrimination still happens every day, in hotels, in restaurants, in stores. But change is possible when accountability replaces excuses, when leaders choose courage over comfort, and when ordinary people decide to do better. Your voice matters, your story matters, and your dignity is non-negotiable. And she posted it online, the video reaching millions, sparking conversations in boardrooms and classrooms alike, proof that one night of humiliation turned into a lifetime of transformation. And as Alicia turned and walked toward the elevators, the sound of applause followed her once more. Not from outrage this time, but from gratitude. The Liberty Grand had been reborn, and so had the people within it. Thank you so much for watching. If you believe everyone deserves dignity, please share this story. Tell us where you're watching from. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Your voice matters, and together we can make these stories heard.